I am demanding transparency at every level on the school and city side to include the Rhode Island Department of Education. These decisions will affect every Warwick resident and taxpayer. Frank Picozzi said prior to the bond vote, we have to make sure the cost of the bond, doesn't force residents out of our city. And that's exactly what it will do if they go forward. 2 years ago, in October of 22, I went on the record and I said, I'd love to support the plan for new buildings, but I don't believe the numbers the schools in the city are presenting are accurate. I'm on the record multiple times over 3 years that the proposed schools could not be built for $350 million. The school has cut over 100,000 square feet off the original plans, and it's now projected as of a few days ago over budget by at least 10%, and a shovel isn't even in the ground yet. For an example of what 100,000 square feet looks like, it's 8.5 times larger than the 12,000 square foot failed ice rink project behind us that had a groundbreaking in April of 2024. The ice rink was supposed to be complete in 12 to 14 months. I don't see any work being done here. The project is stalled. There'll be no ice rink here, and there'll be no schools for $350 million. Voters have been deceived. Politicians have misled the people. They've misled the people with concepts. Taxpayers are once again left holding the bag. Not providing accurate information and twisting the truth in presentations is lying, and those involved cannot be trusted. The Rhode Island Department of Education forced 2 school proposal down our throats, telling us we'd have to take 2 schools or nothing at all. As far as I'm concerned, this action by Rhode is manipulative at best, coercive, and possibly criminal at worst. Why did Warwick not get the opportunity to build one great high school at the cost the taxpayer could afford? During the October 10th debate, Frank Picozzi stated he would not seek additional funding from voters, and it could be done for $350 million. And we find out this morning in a Boston Globe article, quote, Picozzi said that as recently as September 27th, school officials had been providing assurances that the $350 million bond would be enough to cover the cost of 2 new schools. What about the assurances between September 27th and the October 10th debate? Did Frank Picozzi lie during the debate, hoping to get through the election to drop this bomb on the taxpayers after? Leah Hazelwood, the vice chair of the school committee, emphasized the need to trust in those who claim they could construct the buildings for $350 million. Now, we're talking about an additional $37.5 million. My trust and the trust of the Warwick taxpayers in any position involved is gone. I was the only candidate willing to confront the reality that we cannot deliver what voters approved at the current proposed cost. I predicted this years ago. Only one other elected official stood his ground and took a lot of heat for questioning the proposed school plans, City Councilman Ed Lattiser. Several taxpayer watch groups have also been vocal and steadfast in saying the schools could not be built for $350 million. The good people of Warwick have been manipulated, and I will not stand for it. The OPM, left field, promised the building would be on budget at $350 million and a cost of approximately $700 per square foot. Meanwhile, members of Dimeo Construction, the company doing the work in the audience, repeatedly shook their heads no. We have heard this before. Remember, the Providence Walking Bridge was budgeted at $3 million, and when finished, it cost the taxpayers $21 million, 7 times the original budget. Left field's North Providence school costs skyrocketed after their bonds passed. North Providence was forced to cut the 3-school plan down to 2 schools. North Providence planned for a contingency, and the voters approved $125 million in spending. 2 months later, after a Rhode review, The cost was $150 million, nearly a 20% increase. Every time Rhode gets involved, costs skyrocket. Rhode has failed the students in the state for years. Rhode should focus on education. The taxpayers are getting taken for a ride. The student population was just shy of 12,000 people in 2004. It's decreased to 10,000 in 2012 when I was on the school committee. It's presently at 8,005 students and still trending down. We've had a 33% decrease in 20 years. I am demanding transparency at every level on the school and city side to include the Rhode Island Department of Education. These decisions will affect every Warwick resident and taxpayer. Frank Picozzi said prior to the bond vote, we have to make sure the cost of the bond, doesn't force residents out of our city. And that's exactly what it will do if they go forward. The schools and the mayor have been in meetings the public is not privy to. I'm calling for an investigation into when the schools and the mayor knew this project would be over budget, and question if the mayor knew this last week when asked about the school construction during the Warwick Beacon debate. I'm calling for an investigation into the Rhode Island Department of Education and their concrete reasoning for forcing our city to pay for 2 new high schools or get no schools, especially when Warwick taxpayers cannot absorb the cost, even with maximum tax increases for the next 4 years. Can I take questions?
Sure, yeah, I guess to start off, of course, there is going to be a special school committee meeting next week addressing this. What do you hope to see there?
Well, I've already been told that this is what we're going to see. We're going to see an explanation from the schools. I don't know if a city council person is there. The mayor has not been involved in any of the school construction and has stayed out of it. We need a leader that will be in there fighting for the taxpayers and making sure the students get a proper building for education. I'll also say that I was told that the school committee in left field would be doing a presentation, and they would, again, not take public comment or questions. Next question.
You were actually a former member of the school committee. Can you elaborate on some of your experiences during that time?
Yes, I was on the school committee from 2008 to 2012. It was a very difficult time. Former Mayor Scott Avedisian in the state of Rhode Island, in their ultimate wisdom, reduced the memorandum of effort by 5%, totaling cuts of $6.5 million during that time. In 2011, the school committee had to make cuts without affecting education, and we were able to do it. During my 4 years on the school committee, we had a balanced budget. We paid the city back $3.2 million that the previous school committee had gone over, and not once did I go over budget. And I tried my best not to cut programs. Programs like the accelerated program, ALAP, stayed in under my watch, and after I was off the school committee, it was one of the first things cut.
In the city of Pawtucket, interestingly enough, they are in the process, they just passed stage 2, if you will, of Rhode's program for approval of building a unified high school, a single high school, which based on recent budget figures, interestingly enough, comes in right around that $350 million. Why is Rhode and the city of Warwick hell-bent on building 2 high schools?
Well, first of all, I don't think they've put out enough information. I've heard the words equity, and I've heard that they can't do it because the airport is in the middle of our city. We have Route 95 and other access points where we could choose to have a school. CCRI is right in the middle of Warwick, and nobody has a problem getting to CCRI or the malls. If it's good enough for those types of buildings, we could find a place near there to build. And we wouldn't have to interrupt the actual education going on in these 2 schools right now while they're being built.
What type of reimbursement rate, if you will, does the city of Warwick compare to, say, a Providence, a capital city?
Okay, that's one of the things I have issue with Rhode with. The city of Providence, when they build a school, they get reimbursed up to 92%. The city of Warwick is lucky to get 52%. We are 6.5 miles from Providence. 6.5. The economics in this state across the board are pretty much equal. We're a 50-mile by 40-mile state. To compare that to another city, Phoenix, Arizona, is twice our size. So I want to give you another thing. I talked about the cuts of 100,000 square feet, and I compared it to this. But I want to give the people of Warwick an idea of what 100,000 square feet is. It's 2.5 times the size of the Sawtooth building. So when you drive through Apponaug, take a look at the Sawtooth building. The schools have cut 2.5 times the size of that building from their construction plans, and they still either want to cut or tell the taxpayers they need more money.
How would you characterize the relationship between the administration of the city of Warwick and the school committee?
Okay. This is actually a really great question. The administration, and I'll say the city council and the mayor, like a hands-off approach, because then they're not held responsible for decisions that the schools make when they actually should be involved. As far as communication goes, I know that the school committee chair has been meeting with the mayor in these meetings for quite some time to give him updates on the project, and that's the right thing to do. But the fact that they don't put this information out, and when they do finally have a meeting, they don't allow the public to comment on it, is wrong.
As part of RIDE regulations, there is a school construction committee, and RIDE is very specific about who is to be included in that. Has that committee met? Have they had any sort of public face to the community?
That's a question I'd like answered. And this school project has been going on for, well, they put it on the bond 2 years ago, and it was voted on. But they've been talking about schools since I was on the school committee in 2012. As a person that's involved and watches for everything, I've seen nothing concrete.
Now, you mentioned the Globe's figure of $37.8 million. Are you worried that as well might not be enough if it does end up getting approved?
Right. I am worried about that. I think that they're trying to save face and they're giving a number. If they were told on September 27th that it was going to be $350 million, and now, less than 3 weeks before the election, they're giving a number of $37.5 million after 2 years of misinformation, why would they put out the real number now? I believe they want to get through the election, and then after the election, we're going to see the costs skyrocket like they did in North Providence. That's it, yeah.
Anything in your view that, these city officials, that Warwick Public Schools, all of them, can do to regain trust, essentially, amongst the voters and among, for yourself personally?
I think that the entire school committee, the city council, and the mayor need to come before the people. There needs to be a presentation, and you're an elected official. It's your job to serve and listen to the public. I don't care if they're there for 12 hours. They need to answer every single question that the residents and taxpayers of Warwick have. That's what their job is. It's not to go around cutting ribbons. It's not to go around shaking hands. It's not to get photo ops. It's not to give out pumpkins. It's not to put up Christmas lights. It's to make sure you take care of the finances of the city and make sure that the people that have lived here for decades get to stay here and don't have to move out and are not forced to move out because they've been given information.
Would it surprise you to know that Colliers, for example, is the, if you will, the construction management arm behind the Pawtucket Unified High School?
Can you repeat that?
Colliers is the construction management firm, for lack of a better term, behind the Unified High School construction in Pawtucket. Their school committee has hosted Colliers on the average of about once a month for usually a multimedia question and an answer session that also includes anywhere from 3 to 4 professionals, including site management as well as the architect, at open city council meetings with public comment. Would that surprise you?
That actually does surprise me. The city council, the mayor, the school committee, not as much. They do take questions, are dismissive of the people. The city council of Warwick has, for many, many years, cut down the public comment portion, and only now have the people been so upset that they've demanded to have a chance to speak. And are they getting it? This needs to happen in Warwick. It needs to happen as often as possible, every month. And that doesn't just mean the school committee giving an update, because we need to be able to give questions directly to the people that are doing the project. I'll add this. I know our city council meetings are live streamed on YouTube, and the comments are disabled. There are some people that want to give their comment but do not have the opportunity to go to City Hall. And for goodness sake, where are they going to park? So I think that they should allow comments on the city council. It's a First Amendment right for people to be able to put things in there. That's the way I stand on it. The more input, the better, and getting answers to questions is paramount.
And I hate to keep trying to draw parallels between Warwick and Pawtucket, but there's a lot of similarities there, both in the size, the complexity of the student population. So that's why I'm doing this. The Jonathan Levy architectural and design firm that was awarded the contract actually created a committee in the early stages that included teachers, students, families, and city administration, and held several meetings for public input on even the fundamentals of the design. Is that something that you would do as mayor?
Absolutely. The more people involved, the better. I will say that there was a committee created for this project, and in the very first meeting, a member quit. The city council member quit the meeting because he said he wasn't going to be there to rubber stamp things. He wanted to make sure that the questions were answered. And on day one, within 15 minutes, he handed in his resignation. So when a councilman like Ed Ladisher says things aren't the way they should be, I believe him. Again, he's the only one that questioned this entire project, like myself, in watchdog groups.
Fair enough.
I'm good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.